didn't even want to. This was your idea. This was a terrible. This was a terrible. I that's 2 hours. I'm never getting back.
I know. I thought it was only supposed to be an hour and 30 minutes. What? It's another fucking lie.
Well, it was at the speed I watched it at.
Oh well, yeah, you were smarter than me on that. God damn.
God damn.
Painful. You know what's worse?
What?
I didn't get $10 beer money out of this episode. Okay, I guess we should we? All right.
Hello, and welcome to a special episode of The JIB. This has nothing to do with the CIA or the FBI, or at least not really. We are here because Seamus insisted that I watch a movie, and Seamus robbed me of 2 hours of my life that I will never get back. He wanted us to watch a movie called The Sound of Freedom.
Yeah.
Which is a movie about the work of Tim Ballard's organization called OUR, the something Underground Railroad. What's it called? The organization? Operation Underground Railroad.
Yeah. So hey, see there, it fits in right there. Just like a CIA.
Yes. And he claims this organization is instrumental in saving the lives of children who've been sex trafficked. And they made a movie about it called Sound of Freedom. And Seamus pretty much demanded that I watch this movie. I had a better use of my 2 hours, including I was planning on staring at a brick wall for 2 hours, and that would have been a more productive use of my time. But I guess we're doing this now instead. So welcome to our show. We're going to say three things off the top, 3 facts. The first fact is we have both watched this movie. We're not just talking about it as an abstract concept. We have both seen this movie. The second one, what's the second one I had? I had 3 important facts to lay down at the start.
Well, I know what the last one is, but
the last one is, I might as well just zip ahead to the last one. The last one is we are both very much against child sex trafficking.
Yes.
And the reason we have to say that out loud is because we're going to trash the hell out of this movie and the guy who claims he's involved in fighting child sex trafficking. So, and it is in that organization's interest to pitch anybody who criticizes them as somehow in favor of it. Yeah. And he's set this up as a right-wing Christian thing, as though they own not liking child sex traffickers. And myself and Seamus are not. We're the opposite of right-wing Christian people. And I promise you, we're also very much against child sex trafficking. So whatever we say throughout this, we are very much against it. Okay. In fact, I'm against sex trafficking of grown-ups as well. I'm going to go out. I'm going to go out on a limb. Against any sort of abuse of children of any kind, and also sex trafficking of anyone at any point in time ever in human history. But this is about child sex trafficking in Latin America, I think, in particular. This movie.
It's such a low bar, too. I mean, right?
Well,
you shouldn't have to explain it.
While I was writing, while I was looking at the movie, I was taking notes because I knew we'd be talking about it, and that's one of the things I said is, what's the audience for this thing?
Yeah.
I mean, is the audience people who were not previously aware that this kind of thing happens? I mean, surely the fact that this, like, would you like to see a movie about this thing happening? Oh, well, now I know what happens. That's done. You know, and it's not like a documentary. They're not pretending it's a documentary. They're saying this is a fictionalized thing based on stuff that actually happened with Tim Ballard. So who's the audience for this? I don't know.
People like Tim Ballard.
People who've had their tickets bought by somebody else.
Oh, that's the whole other thing, isn't it?
Yes.
We need to talk about that too. Oh, geez.
Well, we'll play the trailer first, will we?
Yeah, I'll get the trailer here. Oh my goodness.
So we can play the trailer legally, and we'll see what we're dealing with.
I think we
Tim Ballard.
We'll find out.
Ballards to the lot of them.
How'd that make you feel? Giving a child his freedom. Felt good. You have been at this for 12 years.
My country 'tis of thee.
Why are you doing it? Because God's children are not for sale. It is the fastest growing international crime network that the world has ever seen.
For Homeland Security, you know, we can't go off rescuing Honduran kids in Colombia.
This job tears you to pieces.
And where my father
this is my one chance to put those pieces back together.
Land of the Pilgrims.
And yet somehow you have failed to bring me one real-world lead.
It's over, Tim. Close up and come back home.
So you quit your job and you go and rescue those kids.
Let freedom ring. Let freedom ring.
South of that river is all rebel territory. No one goes in.
Don't shoot!
What if this was your daughter? So, she's gone.
Let freedom ring.
Hear that? That's the sound of freedom.
There's your trailer. Now, even in the trailer, what you have is overt Christian references plus nationalistic American stuff, right?
Yep.
Like it's a United States of America thing to be against child sex trafficking. The whole thing is being positioned in this way, and it's just insane to me. There's a. Now,
But wait a minute. You saying Ireland isn't pro sex slaves? I mean, you guys.
well, we don't have a
sure
song
about that?
called "My Country 'Tis of Thee." There's no shamrocks in the background of that, is there? Right? No. I mean, it's just the whole thing. Oh, there was one thing in it though. He said there was one line in the trailer, and I noticed this in the movie as well. He said, "This job
Yeah.
tears you apart," right?
Yeah.
And I imagine for the FBI agents or whoever's involved in trying to deal with sex trafficking and pedophile networks and so on, it must be an absolute. Can you imagine going home in the nighttime and your wife is like, or your husband is like, "Hey, how was your day?" And you're just like, "Well, there's good news and there's bad news. The good news is we put away a guy. The bad news is it's going to be another 5 weeks of therapy." You know,
Mhm.
I mean, if there's some guy whose job it is to watch these videos so he knows what's in them. Can you imagine that guy trying to have a life after that, trying to get to sleep?
Yeah, because you have to recognize that it's actually you have experts that look at it, make sure that they're
Yes.
actually
So when Jim
children, they're
Caviezel says that
independent.
this job tears you apart, I was like, I fucking bet it does, Jim Caviezel. And you're an actor, which is a different job. But I imagine the actual job does tear you apart. Yeah. This movie isn't all bad, by the way. There's some good stuff in it, and there's some like it's melodramatic, which means it's emotional.
Yeah.
You get an emotional response to it, whether you want to or not. And for everyone loves kids, like so.
Yeah, and I was actually surprised they have a decent cast. I mean, Caviezel, whatever.
Yeah, Kurt
Yeah.
Fuller. I wasn't expecting
Yeah.
to see him there.
Yeah, and Mira Sorvino. I mean,
Mira
which
Sorvino,
they wasted her in this role.
Well, I think I'm guessing these actors would be all. They must be all.
on
like-
board.
Yes,
Wink, wink.
I mean
I guess.
Christian nationalists. Well, what do you
Yeah.
call like people who are all like patriots, Christian patriots? I imagine. I
Christian
don't know.
nationalists. I think you're
Christian nationalists. Okay, this seems to
That's
be
exactly what
a
it is.
kind of a movie that was crowdfunded on that basis.
Oh yeah.
Yeah,
Well, there's a
that's
lot of connections with LDS Church and Mormonism.
Oh,
because
really?
Ballard himself is, and one of his
Ballard is an LDS.
Yep, one of his coffers is Glenn Beck.
Okay.
So-
Hmm.
Yeah.
Yeah.
We'll talk about something here. Before,
And other people that are in the asshole sphere.
yes,
are attached
yeah,
to
a
this
lot of
project
people in the
here.
asshole sphere are behind
The asshole sphere, as
Tim
I just
Ballard,
called it. Yeah, Glenn Beck. Hmm.
Yeah, the hemorrhoid with ears, I believe somebody called him once. And actually somebody is Michael Savage, who's also in the asshole sphere. That's
Is
what he
he?
called it. Yeah, which I thought
Okay.
that was pretty spot on. That's great. Yeah.
Oh, I remember the second thing now. The second fact I wanted to say is that
there you go.
Seamus is well versed in the life and lies of Tim Ballard.
I'm
He's done
somewhat
research
versed,
into this,
but yeah.
a lot of reading and so on. All I did was look at the things he sent me on the Twitter and on the email. So I read some articles, and I'm vaguely aware of Tim Ballard and the life and lies of Tim Ballard, but Seamus is well into it. So my function here will be to read things out, make jokes, and I guess talk about the movie as a movie rather than a statement of democracy.
Yeah, before we get back to that, just to clarify what you just said, those my sources and what I will tell people, if you are interested in a lot of this stuff, we're gonna definitely talk about Vice. We're actually gonna read some of the Vice stuff that they
Yes.
put out. I would also recommend American Crime Journal and Lynn Kenneth Packer, who has I don't know how many videos on this subject matter. Talk about a
Okay,
rabbit hole.
first thing you said is the
So-
American Crime Journal.
Yep.
And the second thing is Liv
Lynn Kenneth Packer, I believe is his
Lynn
name.
Kenneth Packard.
Yep, Packer.
All right. Packer. Sorry. Okay,
Yeah.
Lynn
If you
Kenneth
go-
Packard.
Yeah, well, actually, a lot of the material that American Crime Journal also comes from him as well. So
Okay.
he's a
Cool.
journalist and he's done a lot of work in this. And it's
Well, what we'll do with that
There's a
is we
lot.
will say people we're going to link below and then
Yes.
not do that. So
I'll do my best. I'll do my best.
okay, but it doesn't matter because we've clearly stated the name
Yeah.
of two of those sources.
Yes. So as far as
My
the
source was
film, what else?
Wikipedia and ChatGPT.
As far as the film, what else did you want to talk about as far as that goes?
Like structurally or
Anything,
content or
what's your feelings on it overall? I mean,
well,
overall, yeah, it's 2 hours. We both wish we had back, and some of the acting
it's
was
melodramatic.
below par, but,
And
yeah.
if you're like, it's like watching, these like soap operas.
Yeah.
It's like they're supposed to produce an emotional response, but there's no depth to it, no texture. And like movies are supposed to have a kind of depth or texture or some sort of art to it. This is just like child sex trafficking is wrong, And I mean, just for 2 hours, and like I get it. And the Tim Ballard character is played by Jim Caviezel, who is, whether you like it or not, Jesus. And he does make a habit of playing, big, hard, silent characters who are actually very sensitive. And you know what? If you want a Jesus, that's the kind of actor you want. And I have to be honest, he did a great job of The Passion of the Christ. He did a great job.
I'm okay
It's
with
not a
that,
bad movie.
but not this.
It's not a bad movie. The way I watch these movies is the same as I saw the Last Temptation of Christ. The Scorsese movie is also a beautiful movie. It's really good. The Passion of the Christ is a good movie. It's well made. It has a narrative, and it's just well made. Mel Gibson thing, whatever about him. It's a good movie, right?
Although the Passion of Christ is much more on par with the actual writings than
yes,
the Passion though.
Yeah, there's bits in it that aren't in the Bible, like, but you have to string it together somehow, right?
Mhm.
But the point is,
sorry,
no, it's fine. It's not a bad movie, and I guess he does the part. Like Clint Eastwood only does one part, right?
Yeah, for the most part.
In every movie he's in, he plays the same part, but he does it really well, so nobody cares. So maybe Jim Caviezel does the same thing. He's a strong, silent guy who's actually very sensitive.
So I don't know. Maybe I'm biased, but I've just never been a fan of his, honestly, especially outside of the Christ movies. But just, I don't know, man. He just. I
was talking to Chris Shelton, and he said even if a movie with Tom Cruise is really, really good, he just hates it. Right?
I understand
that. Yeah. Oh, absolutely. Yeah.
Despite our trashing of this film still, like right now, IMDb an 8.2.
8.2.
That's hard to
maybe
believe.
it doesn't matter that the whole thing is based on bullshit then.
I guess.
I mean, does it matter?
It is so much based on bullshit.
Well, I watched The Passion of the Christ and The Last Temptation of Christ with the same way that I watch a Star Trek movie. Is I just assume that all the stuff that doesn't make any sense is true. Like spaceships don't make noise in space, you know that. The fact that they're totally silent. So when a Star Trek ship goes, right, you don't sort of think to yourself, oh, this doesn't make it. You're just going like, yeah, you got him, babe. You shoot that guy, right? And that's the way I saw The Passion of the Christ, and that's the way I watched The Last Temptation of Christ. Like, it's science fiction. You have to accept the assumptions under which the thing is being made. Now, that's not true for this, because this movie is not science fiction. This movie is not a religious movie. It's claiming to be based on real life, so we can criticize it on that basis.
Thank you.
Right? So that's a different thing. But, and also, child sex trafficking is definitely a thing that happens. We can't ignore that either.
Not to the degree claimed in this film. And that's the other problem. It definitely does happen.
And you showed me something just before we started recording that I wasn't aware of, which is the OUR site itself posted a series of corrections on this movie. His own organization posted a series of corrections, and one of them was something that I wanted to bring up, which is that the depiction they have in this movie of child sex trafficking and how it works is not generally how it works in reality. In this movie, they show you a montage of kids being scooped off the streets and loaded into vans and basically thrown into containers, right? Oh, there we go. They're thrown into containers and they're shipped off and so on. That's not really how it happens in real life. In real life, it's a lot more sinister. It's people who are known to the children, people they trust, the people the families trust. And in general, I think with pedophiles...
I hear you. There it is right there. So,
Yeah, the film takes. Whenever we hear the phrase sex, I'm reading this out. Whenever we hear the phrase sex trafficking, our minds often picture dusty, dark alleyways in foreign countries, and sometimes our minds don't have to picture that, of course, because we saw it in this movie.
Yep.
Our minds often picture dusty, dark alleyways in foreign countries where orphaned children from the streets are kidnapped, exploited, and sold, and that is horrific reality, which it might be. I don't know, but it is also important to understand that sex trafficking is not a foreign issue, but an acute domestic concern within the United States. Now that's interesting. Predators are, here we go. This is the important part. Predators are soccer coaches, trusted teachers, neighbors across the street, uncles, aunts, and I would also say anybody else in your community that you trust. Whoever you trust.
I noticed one exception that they're leaving out, and it seems odd.
I mean, priests?
Clergy, yes.
Yeah.
It's not mentioned here at all. It's kind of odd.
It doesn't matter. The point is anybody you trust and who has access to children, right? It's somebody you trust.
Yep.
Okay, that's like when I was a kid, they had this image of like it's like in the 1980s. The idea, why is my hand moving like that? Sorry.
I don't know.
Pedophiles were the public image of pedophiles was that they were hanging around in bushes outside of schools and so on, and that's not true. They're being invited into schools to do talks. Your parents trust them. These predators, these pedophile predators, your parents are fine with leaving you alone with these people because they trust them. That's how these people work. Anyway, getting back to the text on the page, it says, the film also depicts children in shipping containers. It is important to note that Hollywood took creative license in portraying the different ways that children can be trafficked. Now, it's interesting that they say Hollywood took creative license, because to me, I think who took creative license is Tim Ballard, according to your research, Seamus. Is that correct?
Well, according to Tim Ballard himself, even, right? Because he talked about, up here. Oh, wrong mouse. Sorry. I have two computers.
How many mics do you have?
I got two computers on this one right now. Let's see. Tim didn't kill anybody. That's spoiler alert. Yeah, we should have started with that. Spoiler alert.
He rescues a bunch of kids who are sex trafficked. Now I've ruined the movie for you.
Yeah, sorry. But the story that starts with, I thought it was mentioned here. With the boy, it's this one here, with the teddy bear and all this.
Teddy bear.
So the story is, okay, and he has said this multiple times, that he was called to the scene, or that he was first on scene, of this guy who was trafficking children across the border, and he found this boy, and this boy went straight to him and identified him as somebody to trust, and that he had this necklace, and he gave him the necklace and told him, now you have to find my sister and all this. Yes. Didn't happen. Did not happen. Yes, this kid came across the border. This kid was a U.S. citizen brought across the border. He was being groomed by somebody who Homeland Security only flagged him coming across the border because he didn't have ID for the child. So they flagged him, pulled him aside, and whatever they called for somebody to help investigate, Tim was one of the people because he was a member of Homeland Security at that time. He makes a lot of claims about agencies he worked for, including the agency as in the CIA, which has not been proven. And I'm sure there's reasons why. But anyways, and the border agent that did the initial stop found a video camera and played video back and saw that the man who was bringing the boy across the border was engaging in sex acts with that child on the video, on the camera. So that's what led to it. That guy did more than fucking Tim Ballard,
Yeah.
Well,
he might be a megalomaniac. He might be an egomaniac.
A little bit. Yeah, a little bit. Another fun fact, and I believe this is something that the production agency even said, if I remember correctly. And I could be wrong on anything I say, by the way. In this, please go look at yourself. That they made a point of saying, well, yeah, it's very clear that Jim, Caviezel, whatever, doesn't look anything like Tim Ballard. But Tim was insistent that this man portray him. I don't know. Why is that, Barry? Why would he want this particular actor to portray him, Barry? What connection can we just draw from that? I don't know, Barry.
God's children are not for sale.
Right? I don't know.
There's a strong hint of Christian business going through this entire movie.
Yeah. But this the sister, that's just it's a fabricated, it's not nothing to do with this. But then and they even say
there was never any necklace with Timoteo written on it.
Well, he claims that there is. We don't know. There was a he made something about what that he gave him a necklace later, saying Timothy, First Timothy, and or Second Timothy 16 or something, and he uses that quote as a reason to
I believe
motivate
he never
him.
shot anybody, though. I mean, that's fair enough.
Yeah, that is one thing that's revealed in here.
That's fair.
They didn't kill anybody. What is the other thing? Yes, that they rescued the sister. They did not.
That's another
rescue
thing
the
going
sister.
through the movie as well, that in the movie, Tim seems to do a lot of stuff on his own.
Yep.
And that can't be true. Like, even as you said there about the border situation, in the movie, the situation is Tim is at the border and Tim is personally checking these. Like, that's not what these people do.
No.
They work in an office somewhere.
Yeah.
Mm.
Yeah, it's just not going to happen. And then, yeah, did everything with the and probably the best thing out of the movie, which me and you joked when we first saw the trailer, was the portrayal of the pedophile. I mean, that was like the best cast. Like your stereotypical.
They got him out of central pedophile casting. Yeah, he was so pedophile. Like, I don't need to see any evidence. That guy's guilty. I see him in the supermarket. Yes, it's him, officer.
But like that whole exchange too, like he's going to be left alone. It's just him running that whole facility with people there. I mean, you have to have correctional staff, and you're just going to have.
It's edited kind of
bizarre
janky.
that he would be there.
There's another scene where it seems like Tim's making friends with the kid, and he just meets him in a restaurant, and he starts talking to the kid as if, but no, there's no indication of how the kid got there or who's looking after the kid, or he just meets the kid like they're mates. It's really weird. Yeah, like if I saw that happening, I would call somebody about child sex trafficking.
Right. And if you were assuming that this kid who's been trafficked all this time is just going to sit there and be okay and not thinking, fuck, as soon as this motherfucker leaves, I'm going out the door. You know, it's just it's so terrible. What's the other false claim here? We already read that.
We did that one, yeah. These are the false claims that the OUR organization are.
Yeah, their own.
Themselves. They're fact checking their own movie, which is fair enough. I mean, it's not a bad use of their time, I guess.
Giselle, who's the model agent, right? That's the
yes.
lady
There's a woman who's like an ex-model at the start of the movie, and she says, "Oh, this little girl is pretty, and so is this little boy. We can use them. They can make money doing modeling or whatever." And she grabs them, and she seems legit, I guess. I don't know.
Yeah. Well, her claim was that she was also a victim. So I don't know if that's true. But yeah. Now, what was this bit here where he went to go look for the sister? Now it was in a different location. I think it was Haiti. In the movie it's Colombia.
He goes into Colombia and he takes on FARC, which is really weird. The Revolutionary Armed Forces of Colombia, the terrorist group in Colombia, they're called FARC. They've been fighting against the Colombian government. The Colombian government is being slush funded pretty much indefinitely by the US government. And the FARC are fighting against them. They're both the Colombian government and FARC are funded also by the massive amounts of cocaine they're growing.
Yeah.
So
it doesn't make sense. It just doesn't make sense, right?
It doesn't make any sense that you would go in and take on FARC in the middle of a child smuggling operation. Coincidentally, the exact little girl he's looking for is the little girlfriend of the guy in charge of the drug smuggling gang. It just doesn't make any sense at all.
Well, we have to, right? We have to connect all the dots, right? Because the other thing is, and the other important thing is, that other than trying to get money for his organization, it's probably also the reason was this is the same guy who tried to attribute all these claims that he's made to failure of a border, that we don't have a wall. You
told me he speaks at conservative conferences. Yes. He's somehow this whole movie is positioning an opposition to child sex trafficking as a right-wing issue.
Yep.
Like only right-wing people care about kids enough. Like left-wing people don't care about kids or were happy enough to see kids involved in sexual activity. It's just the most bizarre thing. And he does go speaking at right-wing conferences about this. He does connect it to the border, even though, I mean, I don't know.
There was a position that, in regards to that Trump gave him when he was in office. And that's because he changed all these stories to try to say it was because of border security. The lack of border security is what stopped that kid in the beginning. Okay. And this kid was they were US citizens. It doesn't matter. You know what I mean?
Yeah.
It's just so frustrating. You just tell the truth, dude. you know,
Yeah.
if it is such a problem, you don't have to fucking lie. You don't have to make up these lies, you know.
Yeah.
And you know, making this guy a drug dealer on top of a you know, pedophile sex guy, that was purposeful, because that's the other
Yes.
thing people are worried
This
about
is-
is drugs
yeah.
coming across the border.
In the
So-
movie, it's a very black and white world where
Yes.
you're good or you're bad, and there's no talking to anybody about it. Everything's black and white, and you don't have to do much thinking. There's no depth or texture to
No.
it at all.
So there is another story I want to kick on at some point, but should we just dive into the Vice article right now? What do you think, Barry?
Is that what you want to do?
Yeah, unless you get something
All
else
right.
before you hit there.
Uh,
Do you have anything else to say about the film? I'm sorry, because I know you did.
yeah, loads of stuff, but I'm sure it'll come
Okay.
up when we're talking.
No, go ahead. If you want to go ahead and
All right,
There's
let's
something
see what
on
else I have in my
Channel Real
notes.
Yeah.
Ballard specifically requested that Caviezel play him, as you just said. These are notes. I'm reading from my notes that I made now. Caviezel said, and I got this from Wikipedia, this is the second most important film I've ever done. It's going to affect the saving of a lot of children and changing lives. It will bring light into the darkness. And you saw there from the trailer that the film was released on July 4, which also has a resonance for Americans.
does it?
Um, apparently. And we're not going to talk about the ending yet. I'm also going to. I wrote a thing about. Do you remember a show called To Catch a Predator
Yes.
with a guy called Chris Hansen, which
Yep.
spawned
Have a
many
seat.
memes?
Have a
Have a
seat. Have a
seat,
seat.
It was a show run by a news show, and
Yep.
it was a section where he would hunt down pedophiles or guys who wanted to have sex with like 13 or 14-year-old girls, right? And these were grown men. And they would talk to them online for a few weeks, but actually they were talking to a plant, an FBI plant or whatever. But these were all working for the TV station and not necessarily the police, right? And it was great television, but like the question is whether or not it does any good,
Right.
right? And what we found out was it was a part of NBC Dateline.
Yes.
First of all, a lot of what they did on that show could be considered entrapment.
Uh-huh.
And apart from being unconstitutional under the Fourth Amendment, it's a bad way to stop crime, and also it annoyed the locals. These investigations, almost always, the To Catch a Predator investigations resulted in 0 convictions because of that reason. The second thing I wrote, this is all about To Catch a Predator. The reason I'm saying this is because a lot of this applies to this movie as well. I don't think framing it as public entertainment is a good way to deal with the real problem of child sex abuse. NBC seemed more concerned with getting dramatic footage of pedophiles being wrestled to the ground by a gang of cops than with proper police procedure and due process. In fact, there are dark implications that they consider it reasonable to fudge procedure if the crime is bad enough. Right, and that's another problem with this one. Like, there was ways and means of dealing with these things, and vigilante off in your own, the Colombian jungle is not it. In one example, this is just something that happened on the NBC Dateline. A suspect was never read his Miranda rights until after he'd been cajoled into talking about his plans and motivations during the interview with Hansen. Now, this is a direct violation of the Fifth Amendment. Right? You cannot trick somebody into saying things before they've been read their Miranda rights. Right? And then the third thing I said about this show, I've already mentioned. Pedophiles are not hanging around the internet waiting to attract your children. They are commonly trusted family members or friends. You invite them into your home, right? And the last one I said is, and I think this is probably true of this, the people aren't going to like to hear this, and you might not hear it either, but here we go, right? A huge chunk of these guys are clearly mentally disabled. For To Catch a Predator, they were mentally disabled, clearly. And I would argue that if you want to have sex with a child, that itself counts as a mental disability. And I don't know whether putting people who are clearly seriously mentally disabled into jail is where we should be going with this. Now, all the research I can find indicates that pedophilia is the kind of mental condition that is pretty much untreatable. Now, I've seen lots of studies done and case studies where they tried all sorts of things and it just doesn't work. Whatever's in your brain that makes you want to bang a kid, apparently you just can't therapy your way out of it. You can't drug your way out of it. All you can do is make it clear to these people that it's wrong, and then they accept that it's wrong and they don't have sex with children anymore, but they still feel the urges, but they just don't do it because they understand now that they're ruining a life and they're destroying society and whatever, right? That's the best you can do with them.
Ethically, yeah.
Well, you see, this is what I'm talking about. They're mentally disabled. It's a mental disability, right? And this is a weird thing. I've seen Christian preachers in pulpits saying things like, you must fight the temptation, right? Have you ever seen them doing that? And they say that about homosexuality as well, but pedophilia, they say you must fight the temptation. I have to say, the reason I've been not having sex with kids is not because I've, efficiently fought the temptation. Like, that's not the issue. And it makes me think that if you're positioning it like that, Like, why are you telling me something about you? You know, we must fight the temptation. I was like, I don't think we do. It's just not right. There's some switch in your brain that's not working right. You know.
Yeah, me and you've had long conversations about.
We
this.
have, and the sense of mystery. And my dad, I talked about my dad as well, and he's just like it's just. Why would you want to put your dick in a kid? It just doesn't make any sense. It must be a mental disability, right?
Yeah.
And you could say, like, you know, some guys like him young, right? But like when you say that, you don't mean like kids.
Well,
it's just
some
bizarre,
of them do,
like,
but
yeah. But I mean, it's just bizarre to me. I don't know.
There's always the Leonardo DiCaprios of the world that, you know.
Leonardo DiCaprio. Okay, well, what's the Matt Dillahunty term? Ephebophile, is it?
Yeah.
Yeah.
There's a lot of terms of this, but yeah.
Yeah, and another thing in the movie is, again, it happens in a few scenes where, and this is again about the framing as entertainment, they kind of show you a lengthy scene of a child being sexualized.
Yes.
And that's not, I mean, I don't need to see that, you know?
No, it's to scare the shit out of parents. And that's what that is, right?
Yeah.
It's to reinstill the fear
sensationalism as it's framing the whole thing as entertainment. I think is not good because it basically creates a series of abstractions where you need concrete information. Like if this was an actual documentary, they would have to make it factual, and then it would be borderline less watchable, but at least more truthful, you know?
Oh, you could. I mean, I don't know. Maybe I'm biased because I'm a nerd. I like documentaries. If this was a documentary,
history and law enforcement, Seamus.
Well, I would be far more interested in this than, you know what I mean, if it was done in a documentary fashion. But,
like they're pitching it as real. I don't know. This goes back to my original complaint, which is what's the audience for this thing? Yeah. They're kind of framing it as an action movie, but they're saying it's. I just don't know. It's confusing. It's badly written. It's badly edited. I mean, and the only thing that struck with me is the one line where he says, "This job tears you up."
Yep.
And when I heard that, I did get emotional because I was thinking about all those poor bastards in the FBI, and we trash the FBI every fucking week on our show.
Yeah, you need to calm down and start being so nice to them.
In their defense, they do a lot of good work as well as shitty work. The FBI do good work. We can't deny that. They do some good work. And if there's guys hired, yes, they do. And there's guys hired to look at these things and run down these pedophiles, and that must be it must take a terrible toll on your spiritual sense of cohesion, that kind of a job. I can't even imagine what it does to you, having to deal with these guys and look in their cold, dead eyes, you know? So that hit me, that line that Jim Caviezel said. Jim Caviezel does exactly what he's expected to do. He's a rock of a man. And at the same time, you can see behind his eyes a rock, but at the same time, you see an enormous sensitivity behind him, like he did in the Jesus show. He's really good at it. I mean, he's good at that. I can't deny that. I'm not going to lie just because I don't like him personally. He's good at doing the one part he does, right? Big, strong, silent guy who's very sensitive. Yeah, he kind of did the same thing in Person of Interest as well in the show he was in with Sarah Shahi.
I never saw that.
Not a bad show.
No, okay. Was he Jesus-y in that though?
No, but he was the same kind of strong, silent character who's actually sensitive. Although you don't find out he's sensitive until season 3.
Okay. They had to write that in for him, huh? Yeah, I don't have really much else to say about the film as a whole.
Okay, well, if I think of anything else, I'll pop it up.
I mean, nothing else that we will be touching on here in a few minutes. Well,
your main interest is not so much the movie as Tim Ballard, right, and his organization.
Well, yeah, but just this is just absolute propaganda. It's
absolutely.
Propaganda for one reason, and that's money. That's all this is.
There are ways to deal with child sex trafficking, and watching this movie is not one of them.
No.
This is just going to make you feel bad about this. And I don't know if it's like saying a prayer. Like, I mean, it make you feel like you're doing something if you buy a movie ticket. I don't know.
Yeah.
Do you want to talk about the end bit where he has you can buy someone else's ticket?
Oh yeah. Well, yeah.
Do you have that on camera or?
No, I don't.
No worries. Okay. At the end of it, he says, they have a special system in place saying you can buy a ticket for somebody else who can't afford a ticket. And if you think this movie is important, like it's it's like a message movie, right? Mm-hmm. Then you can buy a ticket for somebody you think might need to hear this message. And Jim Caviezel delivers this straight to the camera, and the powers of his acting are amazing because he doesn't break once. when he's delivering this message. And I don't know how you could be more obvious about a grift.
Yeah.
Like every movie could say that. Buy a
His
ticket for somebody
initials
else.
are even the same as Jesus. JC. What the hell?
Yeah.
It's just like, he was chosen to play God.
Just accuracy. Christ was not his name. Christ was his title. It comes from Christos, the Greek word for Redeemer, Messiah. It means Jesus the Messiah.
J-Town. Anyways.
What did you say?
I better not repeat that one. Never mind.
J-Town.
Yeah, that's another podcast uses that.
Oh, okay, sorry.
So I better not say that one again.
Cross-pollinating with a different product. We have our own.
But I love that podcast, by the way. So
what podcast?
The Dollop.
Oh, the Dollop. Well, you told me about that before.
Yeah, the Dollop.
I watched a few episodes, or I listened to a few episodes. I like it. I like the Dollop too.
They're great. I love those guys.
Now we can say J-Town safely because we've cited our sources. J-Town.
J-Town. Yeah.
Okay, I'm going to read out the headline we're looking at right now for our blind friends, I guess, or on the listening podcast. Anti-trafficking group with long history of false claims gets its Hollywood moment, and that's the kind of headline now that the world needs.
Yep.
The subheadline says, "Go on."
I would just say that, and I don't think we might reference some of the parts of this other article, but Vice was one of the first people that came after Ballard.
Yeah, I'm looking at the progress bar. I'm looking at the progress bar on the right, and there's no way we're reading this article.
Probably not all of it.
See it on the right, on the very right. There's a progress bar. There's like 20 pages of this thing. The subheadline says, Operation Underground Railroad has spent years making big, often unprovable claims about its paramilitary missions and role in rescuing trafficked kids. Now, a new hit movie may help solidify the myth. And that is exactly the problem we're trying to talk about today.
There's the man himself. Nobody's seen.
All right, Tim.
Ballard.
And his t-shirt says, God's children are not for sale.
Yep.
And it's got an American flag on it. Now, again, you can see that he's pumping this Christian American right-wing thing.
Well, lead them to the covenant.
To the covenant, yeah. The covenant. Do you know what that refers to specifically?
The covenant is in the agreement between God and man, right?
I'm not sure what he's talking about. It's not like a specific Mormon thing, no?
Well, I mean, if it is, I'm missing that connection, but I think it's just biblical regardless. Yeah, this one apparently was his little map of what
we're now looking at an illustration with lots of arrows and boxes and so on, and it all goes to timballard.com. Right, so we're not going to read any of this.
Yeah, well, we can. Just let me know where you feel like you want to jump in.
Well, I can read any of it. We're going to start now if you want.
Yeah,
Ballard is the founder and CEO of Operation Underground Railroad, a group which claims a long history of heroic, daring, and often unprovable rescues in foreign countries. These operations, which have supposedly liberated thousands of trafficked women and children, have led to an ever-increasing public profile for Ballard, a former appointee of the Trump administration who's long been believed to be interested in elected office. Now, a major piece of his vision is falling into place. A new film, I'm Irish, by the way, so I say film. A new film, years in the making, which mythologizes OUR's rescues, has been blah-de-blah. Sound of Freedom has been accompanied by a fusillade of laudatory statements from personalities, including, of course, Mel Gibson, who Ballard claims gave OUR valuable intelligence that led to the group and its speakers breaking up a pedophile ring in Ukraine, etc., etc. We'll zip through. It's just the article just goes on like that.
Okay.
And Chris says the Vice News. Yeah, they're referring to the Vice News and of course the Liliana story.
Yeah,
saying that the Vice News story is the one.
Yeah, actually, could you read out there the other story where it starts?
In another story uncovered by Vice News, OUR heavily marketed its role in the rescue of Liliana, a young, isn't that a lovely name, Liliana? A young trafficking survivor, with Ballard telling a fanciful story about this rescue in congressional testimony and in op-eds and media appearances in which he called for a border wall. She, in fact, rescued herself and did not meet OUR representatives until years after she had done so, when she was preparing to testify against her traffickers in court. The organization led a bizarre, blundering attempted rescue on the Haiti-Dominican Republic border based on intelligence sourced from a Utah psychic. The same psychic went on to work as an executive director for an OUR-backed group, an adoption grant organization called Children Need Families. Meanwhile, OUR's sister organization, the Nazarene Fund, funded by right-wing media personality Glenn Beck, claimed without a lot of direct evidence to have evacuated endangered people from minority religious groups out of Afghanistan during the chaotic period after the US withdrawal from the country. And in a minor and weirder incident, Ballard recently claimed that OUR was collaborating with American Airlines, which was also not true in the sense that most people would understand it. The organization bought an ad with a third-party service that airs programming on some American flights. Yeah, that's not a collaboration with American Airlines.
So,
What is that?
What is her name? Lillian?
No, what, is that a butt plug?
I don't know what that is.
Zoom up. Because if they have a butt plug on a sex trafficking article, that is very poor marketing. That is a very poor algorithm. Oh, no, it's not. It's a core. Never mind.
Oh, Barry, you're so innocent.
No, what is it? It's a fruit core. It's a thing for holding corn in the cob, is it?
Oh, that was great.
I'm normally this red. Don't worry. That's embarrassing.
We couldn't have planned that any better.
Are we going to cut that out, or I still see?
Oh, we have to keep that in.
Not.
Liliana,
Okay.
that's her. That was.
Let me just let my face cool down, please.
Sure.
Let the blood leave my face. Oh, Jesus Christ!
So Liliana, that story.
I apologize for bringing my 4chan mind into this. Okay, where are we going?
Liliana, he told that story like I believe 4 times a week, and every time he did, he changed several parts of it, including her age.
He changed the story. Yeah.
Yes, and he testified to this. He testified, so he's perjured himself.
Yeah. Usually, congressional testimony conflicts with testimony given in other areas. It doesn't conflict with itself.
Yeah, so it's just there's a butt plug.
Can you stop scrolling past the butt plug all the time? Just go up or down, right? Pick one.
Okay.
And look at this. There's a T-shirt with "Short Girls" written on it.
Grandma's got. Oh, I missed what that was.
What the Dickens?
Yeah, I should have just put this in like Word and read it from it. Anyways,
I've put mine on reader mode. Reader mode is great, by the way, if you like reading articles.
Read it to you.
Yeah, there's a thing on Chrome called Reader View, and if you hit it, it takes out all the pictures, all the ads, everything, just leaves you with the text. It's wonderful.
Nice.
If you get it fast enough, you don't have to. You get through past paywalls as well.
Let
me read this.
Yes, please.
Which one? These or now?
Now it's fine.
Now, however, Operation Underground Railroad is riding a series of clear wins. Sorry. First, an investigation into the organization led by a county attorney in Utah was quietly dropped in March, according to reporting from the Deseret News. Sources close to the investigation, which lasted nearly 2.5 years, had previously told Vice that it involved multiple federal agencies and concerned allegations that OUR had misled the public and donors. Troy Rawlings, the county attorney who launched the investigation, did not respond to a request for comment on the investigation's closure. Do you want more?
Yeah, the next least full here. I'll scroll down.
And then there's Sound of Freedom.
Oh, there's your butt plug.
And then there's it's my butt plug now. Okay. And then there's Sound of Freedom, in which Ballard is played by Jim Caviezel, an actor who has in recent years garnered attention for his support of QAnon-linked conspiracy theories about children being trafficked and drained of their bodily fluids by a cabal of secret evildoers. Now, this is called adrenochroming. I read this myself. It's called adrenochroming, right? Now, what? Oh, will it just? Do you want me to read that?
If you want to finish your thought, that's fine. It's up to you.
The reason this adrenochroming thing is where they
mentioned it there too.
Oh,
yeah.
Will I read this?
Yeah,
okay.
Sure.
They're pulling children out of the darkest recesses of hell, he told an audience at a medical freedom conference where electoral and COVID conspiracy theories were in heavy rotation. He was referring to Ballard and OUR, explaining why the former couldn't attend the conference in person. All kinds of places, the adrenochroming of children. And then the Vice article explains what it is. The false claim that elites bleed children of a substance called adrenochrome, which can be more easily purchased from chemical suppliers as a part of a ritualistic abuse. And this is a QAnon thing. And this was awkward for OUR, which had to go on the defensive after Ballard implied in 2020 that it was perhaps credible for children to be sold online as a conspiracy theory by the furniture company Wayfair claimed. The organization says on its FAQ page that it does not condone conspiracy theories and is not affiliated with any conspiracy groups. Now, the thing about adrenochrome is the reason this rumor kicked off that adrenochrome is being harvested from children is because of Fear and Loathing in Las Vegas, the movie.
Okay.
Hunter Thompson wrote a book, and in the book Fear and Loathing in Las Vegas, he regularly makes up things because he thinks they're funny. And in one part of it, he said he got adrenochrome from the adrenal glands of little kids or whatever, and he got it from a Satanist. And this is all like total bullshit, right? But somebody saw this and thought it was like a real thing that happened, and now it's kicked off as a real rumor. Adrenochrome is a chemical. Adrenochrome does exist, but you can just get it, it's easy enough to synthesize. You don't need to kill anybody to get it, and it doesn't really do.
Sure.
It's no good to private people anyway. It's ain't even about that. Do you want me to read this premiere?
Yeah, there's 3 paragraphs left in this, and then we
Sure.
can.
The premiere of the film follows an increased cash flow to OUR as recent tax filings show. Oh, yes, someone's done their homework. The documents, which were some of thousands recently released by the IRS after a pandemic-related delay, shows that Ballard's salary increased by 54% between 2021 and 2022 to about $546. That's $500,000.
Yep.
Even as donations to the organizations appear to have decreased by roughly 30%. Both Ballard's wife, Catherine, and one of the couple's children are on the payroll, as is Emily Evans, Ballard's sister, who works as their communications officer, and Mark Blake, the organization's director, who is his brother-in-law. But while OUR's donor base shrunk to some extent in 2022, its star in right-wing politics is rising. For years, OUR presented a more or less apolitical face, which began to change when Ballard testified that the U.S. border with Mexico had to be sealed to decrease trafficking, a claim he used the story of Liliana to bolster. Trump went on to repeat some of Ballard's claims. In recent years, Ballard has got involved in controversies not clearly connected to trafficking, like denouncing drag queens. Why would you denounce drag queens? The most harmless gang of people in history. Denouncing drag queens performing in front of children and discussing the transgender movement with the right-wing outlet, The Daily Signal. I'm glad somebody's finally dealing with those transgender people.
Right.
Because they're a threat to... I can't tell you how many times a transgender person has beat me up on the streets. Oh, wait, I can't. 0. All of this, OUR's move towards right-wing politics is increased hype and cash flow, and its positioning as the only thing standing between children and sexual slavery will only be aided by the new film and the credulous coverage it's received. Ballard once dreamed of a web of interconnected businesses and charities, all serving to reflect attention back on him and the truth as he understands it, and today that dream seems closer than ever to becoming reality. That's the problem. It's positioning right-wing Christian stuff as the only thing standing between children and sexual slavery, and it's just insane.
Well, because Hollywood wants this, right? Did you hear about Pizzagate? Where have you been?
I remember Pizzagate, and I don't know why anybody would believe that. It was ludicrous on the face of it.
So we do have these 2 more things I want to talk about super quick, hopefully. But the good news, maybe.
Tim Ballard. Oh, when did this happen?
Recently.
July 13th.
Yep.
Which from now is 2 days ago, 3 days ago?
Yep, something like
from
that.
when we record. Tim Ballard. Oh, by the way, I like this idea of doing special shows that are current, instead of talking about things from 1960s like I've been doing. Tim Ballard has stepped away from Operation Underground Railroad, org says. And the subtitle says, the founder of the controversial anti-trafficking group left before the launch of Sound of Freedom, a surprisingly successful movie about his exploits. And that's the same reporter that was involved in the last one.
Yeah. So I don't know.
I mean, Jim Caviezel isn't entirely a bad fit for that guy. I mean, he's definitely shorter, but he's certainly a big lump of a man. Like, he's not thin, He looks like he works out a lot.
I'm trying to see here. So basically, he's left, and there's somebody else that's been a CEO since February.
Okay.
There's some speculations. Yeah, there's a couple different speculations. Nobody knows for sure as to why he's left. But he is still. I was looking for the paragraph that says this, but I'm not seeing it right away. So I don't want to spend a lot of time. Oh, here it is.
Do you want me to read that? Another person who's worked. Sorry.
There you go.
Another person I'm reading from the Vice article that's on the screen now. Another person who's worked with the group said that to the best of their knowledge, he was no longer with OUR and was focusing on his work with the Nazarene Fund, a Glenn Beck-backed organization that has focused on religious minorities in the Middle East, but has more recently operated in Afghanistan and Ukraine. A third person familiar with OUR fundraising said that they had heard just this week that Ballard had broken with the organization. So I guess it trickles through.
So this organization is also problematic.
The Nazarene Fund.
Yes.
Well, I mean, would it not be a worthwhile thing to do to get like religious minorities out of Afghanistan?
Sure, but they're making some incredible claims that have also.
Oh, they're doing the same thing that OUR is doing.
It's Glenn Beck.
It's Glenn Beck. Yeah,
it's Glenn Beck, and confession time. Whenever I was a right-wing Christian jackass, Glenn Beck was my personal Jesus. I mean, this was the guy I was tapped into. Okay, so it hurts anytime I hear him speak his voice now, because I'm like, oh, so stupid. Why did I listen to this guy? You know what I mean? It's like one of those things. It just is terrible. But
that's fantastic, Seamus, because you have a unique insight into what needs to be done to disabuse people of these notions.
maybe
Not maybe, because
really...
you were disabused of these notions. You just said that you saw Glenn Beck as a positive source of information. Now you don't.
Very positive.
You've been disabused of those notions, so now you see how it happens in at least one person.
Well,
that's good information.
My biggest thing was religion. Once I dropped that, and I'm not trying to shit on people that if you can be religious, but you don't have to be an asshole. And it's not the end of everything. I think that's the other thing that people don't seem to understand. You know what I mean? It should, just because it's good for you doesn't mean it's good for everybody else.
Yeah, I'm fine with religious people, by the way.
Yeah, so am I.
Yeah, if you believe in God or you're a Christian or a Muslim or anything, I'm 100% fine with that. Just leave me alone.
Thank you. Yeah, what was Hitchens always said, you can play with your toys, enjoy your toys. You want,
believe in all the gods you like.
Yeah, don't bring your toys and play with my children and tell them they have to play with, because I'm not interested. That's how I feel too. But,
and by the way, if someone is criminalizing Christians or someone is annoying Muslims, I will defend them.
Right?
I don't give a shit. If someone is hassling Christians, I will say, like they are in North Korea, by the way, and China, I will be pro-Christian in those countries. And I'm anti-Christian here because the Christian are in charge of the bloody thing, right? If someone's trashing Muslims in any European country, I am pro-Muslim. In Muslim countries where they trash atheists, I will be anti-Muslim in those places, right? That's how it works. Sorry, people. Like in this country in Ireland, there tends to be there's often a kind of a right-wing anti-Muslim thing. So in this country, I will be pro-Muslim. If there's any Muslims, if they want to build a mosque or whatever, I will defend them. I will go down and defend them.
Yeah.
If I was in Saudi Arabia, I would not be doing that, right? Because the Muslims are in charge, and they're the ones doing the oppressing. This should not be like it's not about nuance or anything. It's just about basic common sense. You can't say like, oh, the Christians are always right or the Christians are always wrong. In China and North Korea, Christians are being oppressed. They definitely are, and you need to be not you. I would be pro-Christian in a Chinese context, in a North Korea context. I will defend those people. You know what I mean? So it's not like I'm anti-religion or anything.
It's a human rights issue. It's not, right?
It's a human rights issue, yes. And if they're not allowed to practice their religion any way they want, and they're not bothering anybody, then they need to be defended. And it's not just even that. They're being oppressed in North Korea and China. They're being targeted and oppressed and locked up, and that's not right. In China, they're locking up Muslims. We need to be pro-Muslim in China.
So one last thing that I want to talk about with this. No, you're fine. Just because I think this is kind of interesting. This says a lot. So these two have such a deep relationship now, Tim and Glenn, right? If you ever click on any of the videos where Tim is talking about Glenn, it's very sycophantic.
Oh, Tim and Glenn.
Yes, it's very much how like pro-Trump people talk about Trump and do a lot of this.
You think it's borderline sexual?
I don't know, but you know what I'm saying. You know,
we might need that butt plug after all.
So
sorry, that corn cob holder, whatever it was.
No, it was a strawberry thing. So berry. Anyways, I'm sure you've heard about this guy, but I'm sure I'm going to mispronounce his name, and you're going to be all over me. Bonhoeffer, back in the Nazis. Dietrich Bonhoeffer.
We talked about him, did we?
He was a guy that said no to the Nazis.
Oh, no,
we didn't. Was punishment for it. Yeah, so it's Bonhoeffer.
Bonhoeffer.
Yeah. Anyways, so Tim and Glenn decided that they needed to be an award for somebody that stands up and does the right thing. Right?
Oh, they didn't call it the Dietrich Bonhoeffer Award, did
they? The Bonhoeffer Angel Award. Okay. And who do you think received the first award?
Please tell me it's not Trump.
Oh, Glenn Beck.
Oh, Glenn Beck.
So the guy that made the award gave it to himself the first fucking year.
I mean, that's not a good sign, is it?
No. It if you also have to go on YouTube and watch his acceptance speech, it is gold. Like he's like in shock and he's crying, and because that's
Like if I wanted to join a competition that I saw on the back of a box of cornflakes, right?
Yeah.
A paragraph on the back of that box of cornflakes will say this competition is not open to any employees of Kellogg's, right? Isn't that true?
Yeah.
Yes, you will see that in all those competitions. And apparently it's not true for the Bonhoeffer Award. Like, so next year Tim Ballard will win it, will he?
But the other problem with this adventure that these fuckers are doing, right? There was like 21 different organizations that OUR claimed that they had, organizations that OUR claimed to be working with on sex traffic and all this, and a bulk of them all either said flat out that we never had association or the association was very limited. Many even said we don't associate with them anymore, including ICAC, which is the International Crimes Against Children.
Okay.
So these,
ICAC, by the way, is an incredibly poor acronym.
Yeah, it's troubling. Anyways, so and the other thing is they are taking money away from these organizations that are actually doing good.
Yes.
These people are actually on the ground, trying to help kids.
Yes.
They are losing donations because people are now giving it to this
OUR are very good at is raising funds.
Yes.
And they're not very good at rescuing kids.
They are doing the FBI playbook, right? This is their thing they're getting accused of. They're going into these environments. They're like, hey, who's doing sex trafficking? I think everybody should do sex trafficking because I'm here to buy sex trafficking. I'm here to give money for sex trafficking. So they are creating the problem in different agencies.
That's like the To Catch a Predator thing. They're creating a market.
Yes.
That's unconstitutional and it's entrapment. Yes. If you talk somebody into committing it, if you go into any third world country with a bunch of cash and say, I want this thing, somebody will get it for you, even if they previously were not doing that. Right. Because third world countries tend to have not a lot of money, and they tend to have, whether you like it or not, you're creating an economy of opportunists, and also they're very corrupt. So you go into any third world country and say, I need an elephant by Tuesday, and if you can get me an elephant by Tuesday, I'll give you 5,000 American dollars. Somebody will give you an elephant by Tuesday. And it doesn't matter what you ask for, you will get something. So if you go in and start creating a market, that doesn't mean anything.
Yeah.
You could be causing more trouble than you're solving.
Yeah, and nobody here is going to care. That's the other thing that's important. Nobody here is
You certainly haven't saved an elephant, I'll put it that way.
Yes.
Right? You have not saved an elephant by creating a market for illegal elephants. And I'd say you haven't saved any kids if you're creating a market for illegal child trafficking.
Yeah.
But that's the Christian thing, isn't it? They create problems. They sell you solutions to problems that they have created.
Hey, you were going to trash religion, dude. Come on.
No, well, I can trash religion and defend religious people all at the same time.
I know. I'm just being an asshole.
They'll say things like, oh, your soul is original sin. You need Jesus to save you. And I said, that is a problem you just created.
Yeah.
That's not a problem I've had before. People are naturally evil. No, they're not. No, they're not naturally evil. They're just people. Sometimes they do good stuff and sometimes they do bad stuff. I don't think anybody is naturally inclined to do bad stuff all the time.
No, I mean there's psychosis, but that's a whole other too.
Psychopaths.
Right. Yeah.
I don't know. Psychopaths, I think, are capable of doing nice things every now and again.
Yeah. Hannibal was.
Yeah. He cooked dinner for people, didn't he?
Yeah, he did. Really interesting food.
Yeah.
His
dinner party.
So that's pretty much all I got for this.
Is that all you want to talk about?
Yeah. I'd recommend. Is there anything else?
I'm going to check my notes.
Yeah, please do. I just again would want to.
Oh yeah, the thing he says that the punchline in this is because God's children are not for sale, right?
Yeah.
But Jim Caviezel says that in response to somebody who said, "Why are you doing this?"
Yes.
And to be honest, I don't think that really needs much of an answer. Why am I rescuing children who've been sex trafficked? Why am I doing this? So that's not a good thing. It's paced very slowly, and the rest of it is paced very strangely. I've mentioned that already. Somewhere halfway through, it goes completely off the rails. He's gone from rescuing sex-trafficked kids to infiltrating a Colombian terrorist outpost running on cocaine money, and the whole thing just turns into this weird second half of James Bond movie.
Yeah.
It doesn't make any sense. Just a quick.
No, it needed the action. That's all that was.
one of the pedo-busting cops is talking to Jim Caviezel, asking him all these questions, which are just incredibly poorly scripted exposition at the start. And it ends with, "It's a messed up world." Like, yeah, you know, yeah, it is a messed up world. Like, why? It's just poorly written, poorly edited.
Yeah.
But there are, as I said, it's not all bad. There's a good line in it that says, "This job, tears you up." And when Caviezel says that, I believed him. So he's not a bad actor or anything. That was good.
I liked the supporting actors' performances better than his.
Yeah.
I mean, Mira Sorvino, they wasted her. I don't know what.
Yeah, she didn't do she didn't put in a good performance at all. She phoned it. I think Kurt Fuller was basically sitting behind a desk in his house for all his scenes.
Yeah, I mean, it was, it's the Christian idea of what a wife should be: stay at home, cook my dinner, that kind of thing.
Yeah.
It's very, very just poorly written character.
Yeah.
So I don't blame her as much as just
none of this has any depth or texture. None of this movie has any depth or texture.
Terrible.
Now, I'm not suggesting, by the way, that people who have sex with children should be humanized or anything.
No.
I'm just saying that, like, you need to have depth and texture.
Bill Camp.
Otherwise,
Bill Camp. I'm sorry, that's the guy I was thinking of. That's the guy who plays basically the guy that was lied to and ended up having sex with a kid and then goes on.
Oh, okay.
I thought his character was probably the most interesting, and his portrayal was probably the best. He was very good.
Yeah, like none of these characters are interesting.
His was, but I mean that's it.
They're all one-dimensional.
Yeah. I mean, there was something there that you could have worked with too. Yes. But
if they wanted to make a documentary, then they should have done that. And then I wouldn't be able to say this because there's no such thing as a character in a documentary. I can't criticize, plot structure or character development in a documentary unless it's like a Herzog documentary where he kind of does that on purpose. You can't do that. But this is a movie. They specifically said it's a fictionalized version of the stuff that happened. So, like, it's just terrible.
Yeah.
If you want to help do something about child sex trafficking, you should feel free to do so, but OUR is not the way to do it. There's a bunch of organizations. If I were you, is UNESCO the United Nations Fund?
Yes, I believe that's
right.
Correct.
I think UNICEF.
UNICEF.
The organization that will help children in all the different countries is called UNICEF. Right? Donate to UNICEF.
Or look at your local charities.
Yes, I have in the past donated to UNICEF myself. So I can tell you, yes, donate to UNICEF. They do good things with that money.
Oh, and also there's a conspiracy that people are trying to keep folks from watching the film. That's also a bunch of bullshit.
Oh, no. Yeah. That was another thing. You sent me that. I have it open here. It says leftist. Now, listen to this. This is what I'm talking about, positioning it as a right-wing issue. Leftist theater staff members are intentionally sabotaging Sound of Freedom movie viewings. This is about the 100th time people have reported this issue. Anyone who experiences this should document it fully. This is a tweet I'm reading from a guy called Spence. CEO Adam, I don't know what that is. Some guy thinks it's a conspiracy, even though there's hundreds of documented cases on video. Same way he says there's no reliable evidence of naked short selling, even though now blah has identified irregularities. That's just so much stuff. The point is, there is, as you just said, there is a conspiracy theory that left-wing people are preventing people from watching this movie. Now, it's in our case, of course, it's true. We are encouraging people not to watch this movie, and we're left-wing, but not because we can't stand the heat or anything, but because we value your time. We value your time. And we've been talking for 1 hour, and so maybe speaking of valuing your time, maybe
this is the longest episode we've ever done. At this point.
I know. I kept talking, man.
That's okay.
There was no script to this, so there was no way to rattle it in.
Do you want to? Should I share the tweet of the guy buying tickets and all that nonsense too, or not?
Yeah, sure.
Okay, I'm gonna bring that one up.
Give the people what they want, man.
Yeah. So, and while the other thing is for the folks listening. You
should going to help them at all, is it? If we share the tweet?
Well, no, because there's audio, so they should be able to hear it. So,
hey guys, how are you doing in audio land? You can't see what's going on. Let me sing for you the song of my people. By a lonely prison wall. Oh, hang on, here we go. Oh man, there's the rotating. Oh, here we go.
Okay, ready?
Go.
Yo, what up, guys? Conspiracy happening right now for Sound of Freedom. Check this out. I tried to order a ticket. And it's only one seat left. Watch. All these seats are taken. The only seat left open is right here. See this? Seat unavailable. All these are taken. See that? Seat unavailable. The only seat available is the very front row, 85. Let's select that. Now I'm walking to the theater right now. You saw the kiosk, there's only one seat left, right? One seat in the front row. Who wants to go see a movie with one seat left in the front row? No one. So here we go. Let's walk into the theater right now and see what's up. Yeah, conspiracy happening right now.
Is that Memphis
One
Soul
seat
Stew
left
by
in the kiosk.
King
Guess
Curtis?
what? The whole theater's fucking
Maybe.
open.
Oh, I'm convinced.
Now, no. I mean, that is evidence, right?
Evidence that they sold out,
Yes.
right?
Now,
So
what could
people were-
explain it that isn't a conspiracy? Now, in fairness to that guy, he saw that he had one seat left, and when he went into the show, he saw a lot of empty seats. That's fine. I get why he was upset by that. Now, calling it a conspiracy implies that there's a bunch of people specifically preventing people from doing this, and he has no evidence of that. All he knows is that all the
No.
seats were sold out. He only had one left, and he went in, and there was a bunch of empty seats. So, how would you explain that in a more reasonable fashion than a left-wing conspiracy?
I can.
I can too, but I want to hear what you have to say.
Okay, two reasons.
Hmm.
First off, is just normal life experience. I mean, I've gone to a lot of Marvel movies and shit that you have to order online ahead of time that are sold out. You show up, and sometimes if you show up early, not everybody's taking their seat until after the previews, even.
Okay, so he's gone in too early. That's
That's
Possible
what I'm
number
thinking,
one.
because there's at least a dozen people there. right?
sure. Yes.
Okay, and another thing is which we just talked about before. That's on the websites, on the trailers. Buy a friend a ticket. There's a
That's
huge
what I thought it
campaign to
was.
drive. Yeah. So
If you give people something for free, they will be less incentivized to take advantage of that thing.
right.
So I bought a ticket for my brother. I said, you should go see this movie. That ticket is booked now. My brother doesn't give a shit.
Exactly.
Right? Right.
Yeah.
I think that's probably what
Yeah.
happened.
Yeah. But I mean,
But I don't blame that guy. I don't blame that guy. That guy is a meathead. And I don't know.
Yeah, he's
I
a
don't
meathead.
blame him. He saw a fully booked up show with one free seat left. He went in and there was a hell of a lot of free seats. So I don't blame him for acting a bit weird about it. That's fine. He just came to the wrong conclusion.
I don't know, dude. If you go
I
down
try to
his,
see the best in
You go
everybody.
down-
I try to
you
be
go down his-
charitable about everybody.
go down his Twitter feed later, and then you'll feel different.
Oh, okay, he's a dick, is he?
He's
I try to be charitable and I try to look at everybody's point of view as much as I can. It takes a lot to break me. It takes a lot to snap me. But if you do, then
I am working on it full time.
yeah, I do everything I can to see everybody's point of view and be as charitable as possible in the bullshit people come out with and say, look, why on earth would you think this? But I try to, like this guy that we just saw, it seems reasonable that if you see a fully booked up show and you go in and there's a load of empty seats, that you would say, well, wait a minute. Right? Now, if this guy turns out to be a right-wing wingnut on his Twitter, as you said, well, then maybe I don't have that context. But
yeah.
I'll try and see the best I can in everybody.
I think it's all fair points, though, Barry.
Hmm.
Yeah.
Will we let
That's
people
all.
go? Do we value their time?
Yeah.
Right.
That's-
That is our special episode of the JIB, our timely episode of the JIB with the release of The Sound of Freedom, which we did not like for two separate reasons, the style and the content.
Yes. Both in spades.
Yes, the form and the content.
Yeah. We'll be here next week. On
We
our
will. This
normally
is
scheduled time.
an inter-episode, a special episode. We will be here next. Do you know what we're going to show next? Oh, we don't.
It'll
Yeah.
be a CIA. It's a CIA special
Cool.
one. I can tell you that.
Next week, we
Uh,
will be here with a CIA masterclass in getting it wrong.
See, getting it wrong. Do you want the title? Do you want to know what it is?
Yeah, please.
Acoustic Kitty.
Next week, our show is called Acoustic Kitty, and you will love it.
Yes. It's a lot of fun. It's a good one.
Thank you for joining us.
And the following week we'll also have another special, right?
Yes. Sorry, yes. A less
So
timely one, but also yes.
yes. we watch a CIA training film.
Yes.
So that'll be on the off week as well. So we'll do
I think
another
even without
special
our
event, so-
commentary, that training film is funny, right? So
Yes,
we're going to find out.
so-
Yeah, basically, we have a bunch of episodes that are fun and interesting planned for the next 2 weeks.
Yes.
After 2 weeks, it's boring as fuck, and I would not check out the podcast at all. But the next 2 are going to be great, I promise. Acoustic Kitty is great, and the CIA training film one is great.
Yeah.
All right, and if you like the show, tell your friends. Link to it on your social media. If you don't like it, please tell everybody you know. I will take hate follows. Thank you very much. And thank you for joining us tonight.
See y'all later.